so much for joining us once again, and we start the bulletin with a compilation of business stories, including the threat from the Controller and Accountant General's Department to put on hold salaries of some state agencies. We will tell you why in today's summaries.
The Controller and Accountant General's Department says salaries of state agencies will be put on hold if such agencies exceed their compensation budget starting end of July this year. A circular is expected to be sent to all ministries, departments and agencies to this effect as part of new policy that will actively involve the Finance Ministry. According to the Controller and Accountant General's Department, it has observed MDAs exceed their budget for salary payments, which tends to put a huge financial burden on the state. The Ghana Association of Microfinance Companies is seeking for an extension in the minimum capital requirement to a maximum of 2 years. In 2015, the Bank of Ghana increased the minimum capital for deposit-taking and microfinance credit companies from 500,000 Ghana cedis to 2 million Ghana cedis, which had a deadline ending last June 2018. However, data from the central bank indicates only 30 out of the 319 registered microfinance companies are in a position to meet the new requirement so far. China's monthly trade surplus to the US hit a record high of nearly $29 billion in June as exports to America remained strong. The figures come a week after the trade war between the two began, with the US imposing tariffs on $34 billion of Chinese goods and China retaliating. This week, Washington threatened to impose 10% tariffs on another $200 billion of Chinese imports. Analysts expect to see the impact of the tariffs in July's figures. And Facebook says it will not remove fake news from its website because it does not violate its community standards. The social network is currently running an advertising campaign on the UK that declares fake news is not our friend, but it said publishers often had very different points of view, and removing fabricated posts to be contrary to the basic principles of free speech.
So those were our summaries for the day. Baudilia, what do you think about the story about the Controller Accountant General's Department threatening to put on hold some state agencies at the moment?
I basically think that's it, because if we're looking at over-bloated public sector budgets and how these have been affecting revenues and of course our spending, then we really have to do due diligence. We've got to clear ghost names and make sure that whoever is taking money is going to the right person.
And we are talking about increasing tax, and who pays for it? We are the people actually going to pay for it. So it will be interesting to see how they go in the coming days about that. But I will be back later on the show to talk about our tax. Imani Africa has actually identified some problems with the 2017 budget, and going into the 2018 mid-year review and the 2019 budget actually, what are some of the measures they are proposing? When I come back, we'll talk about that.
Okay. So we move straight into our stories, and while the global spice market is projected to exceed over $10 billion by 2019, Ghana cannot have a fair share of the market. Unfortunately, 90% of spices found in the country are imported. Fauzia Adam visited the Nima markets, which is home to about 50% of a variety of spices, and has produced the story.
I work hard every day to make my carefully organized in pans on tabletops, the Nima market houses the biggest spice market in Ghana on Wednesdays. On Mondays and Tuesdays, the streets of Nima are choked with heavy trucks of goods, mostly spices ready for business. Majority of these trucks are from other African countries.
So it's a lovely Tuesday afternoon, and I'm here at the Nima market, where most of the traders are getting ready to sell their products tomorrow, Wednesday, which happens to be a market day. This particular truck is from Togo, and in this truck we have different kinds of spices and foodstuffs to be sold. Some of these men who offload these trucks complain of high cost of duties.
The problem is this goods duty. If you are coming, policemen and the customs are disturbing us. The safer is too high. Now the safer is 82, 81, 83, 84. But if government go help us, the duty will come about 40, 39 or 37. We like it, it will help us.
Spices are dried parts of plants that usually have strong and special smells which comes from the seed, fruits, roots, barks and stems. Despite the challenges these traders face to import spices from other countries, the spice business here in Ghana seems to be lucrative. Nimatu Ali is a spice trader at the Nima market.
Spice business is good. We thank Allah. It's a lucrative business, but things are expensive.
There are about 50 spices that are common in the world. They are pepper, cinnamon, nutmeg, ginger, cloves, turmeric, and thyme. However, the common spices found at the Nima market are bay leaves, anise star, rosemary, negro pepper, and cloves. Others are garlic, ginger, nutmeg, coriander, among other spices, and all these spices are imported from other countries.
This one is called a fomusa, but the Hausas call it janyaji. We don't have some in Ghana. This is from Abidjan. At first we buy it for 25 cedis, but now it's 180 cedis per olonka. This is Mosrodo. The cheese call it a sumusa, and this one, some are in Ghana, but not enough. They bring it from Nigeria. This is peple. We don't have some in Ghana. They bring it from Dubai. This is inkitinkiti. We don't have it in Ghana. Even the high duty westerns are applied.
Today is market day at Nima, which happens to be on Wednesday, and 50% of the goods sold here are spices. This is rosemary, which is flown all the way from Dubai to Ghana. The spice market is expected to exceed an amount of $10 billion by 2019, but Ghana lags behind in this business potential.
Unlike the market women who heavily depend on foreign spices to ply their trade, the country indeed grows spices and even exports them. Esther Asante is the owner of Organic Trade and Investments. An online company exports indigenous Ghanaian products, including spices.
We have a lot of spices, I think 100 of them we cultivate in Ghana. And we have the dawa dawa, pepper, name it, most of it. We have the local name for it or the English name. But basically, we currently in Ghana, we cultivate organic spices.
According to her, the Ghanaian spice farms are organic, hence the inability for Ghanaians to even appreciate their own product.
Fortunately, in Ghana, there are not many farmers who are into organic spices because, as I explained to you, it's a tedious work. And we can export or we can produce massively because it's organic. So we can have maximum 5 tons, which is 5,000 kg on a monthly basis.
Okay, you've spoken about spices here in Ghana. Where exactly in Ghana do we grow spices?
Okay, in Brona Hafo. And then we also have the eastern region. Then we have dawa dawa. Then because they use it as a spice, or they sometimes cook it also and they drink. Yeah, okay, the juice. So these are the biggest spices that we do have interest, buyers interest for.
For years, Africa has been an important player in the global spice trade. Currently, the African continent produces less than 10% of the spices produced worldwide. According to Food and Agriculture Organization, some of the leading producers of spices in Africa are Nigeria, Madagascar, Tanzania, Uganda, Kenya, and Ghana. Although the soil and climate in many parts of Africa are favorable to growing spices, we are yet to fully exploit this huge business potential. Fawzia Adam, Joy Business.
Well, so when we make the money, we need to go to the bank, and we have a story coming to you from the Commercial Bank. The Ghana Commercial Bank has committed 1 billion Ghana cedis towards the One District, One Factory initiative by government. About 270 clients have already put in the applications, awaiting review for support. Head SME and One District, One Factory of GCB, George Fuache, said the bank has signed an agreement with Invest in Africa to further facilitate credit access to SMEs in Ghana.
The year-long agreement between GCB and Invest in Africa, IIA, formally makes GCB the newest partner of the initiative. According to Head SME and 1D1F, joining the Invest in Africa initiative will further reinforce GCB's commitment to making a positive difference by supporting in the growth of local businesses, especially SMEs.
When you talk about customer base, there are obviously certain key segments, one of which is the SME segment. And so, one, we have our own experience. We've done this for a number of years, more than 60 years. But we've gotten to the stage where we believe we would be able to accelerate the growth of that sector and our ability to capture the opportunities within that space by partnership. And obviously we looked around, and one of the key partners we found was Invest in Africa. We are interested in the SME space. They are also interested in the SME space. And we believe with that collective intention, we could do more.
With over 1,500 SMEs in the IIA's pool, GCB hopes to expand their customer base for a relatively improved quality base. Currently, GCB has embarked on a 5-year strategic plan, and some key thematic areas include an intention to expand the bank's customer base. As part of its plans, the bank says it has committed a minimum of 1 billion Ghana cedis towards the One District, One Factory initiative by government. Over 270 proposals have so far been received for review.
GCB has committed a minimum of 1 billion Ghana cedis to the One District, One Factory initiative rolled out by the government. And as the biggest indigenous bank, the board, the management and the staff found it necessary to commit that to it. We have all it takes to be able to deliver, and we have set ourselves on that agenda. The SME department has existed in various shapes and forms, but there's now a strategic intent to it to become the core of the bank. So it is a new journey, a journey that comes with a lot of experience, but obviously the partnership would bring to the fore the knowledge base that Invest in Africa has based on their experience with SMEs, and that partnership is what we believe will change the engagement with the SME space.
The partnership with Invest in Africa will also explore how SMEs get shortlisted by GCB for the One District, One Factory project. Being the largest indigenous financial institution in Ghana with over 180 branches, the bank says IIA-registered SMEs will benefit from short to medium-term capital to enhance them service tenders. Invest in Africa, IIA, is focused on supporting local Ghanaian businesses by providing greater access to finance, markets and skills, making it easier for international companies working in Ghana and large homegrown companies to source locally and at scale.
Well, to some real estate business, and Ghana Real Estate Developers Association says 95% of buildings in Ghana fail to reach their expected lifespan as a result of poor standards. Executive Secretary Samuel Amejayi-Gbagbo revealed this at the open day of the Building and Road Research Institute of the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research in Kumasi.
Mr. Ameibo says developers over the years overlook guidelines to safety such as soil testing, rising humidity, among others, which are key to a building's stability. Mr. Ameibo wants strict conformance to relevant building legislatives.
It will be interesting for you to know that out of the several houses that are developed in this country, only 5% is supplied by established real estate developers. Even most of us don't even engage. Most of us are even, found wanting when it comes to professionalism in our delivery. So if all the houses that are being delivered in this country is done by individuals like you and I sitting here, and we don't have the knowledge of what must be done, the necessary research, soil testing, very, very crucial. How many of us have bothered to find out about soil testing before commencing our project? That is why we see all sorts of rising dampness issues. You see all the walls that you see that it's flaking out.
The day saw exhibition of various innovative products of the Building and Road Research Institute. Sustainable housing, using advanced systems to manage traffic congestion, research into sustainable use of waste plastics are among the agenda. It is under the theme CSIR, 60 Years of Research with Impact for Sustainable Research. Chairman of the CSIR Council, Professor Kensford Adabo, encouraged scientists to do more for greater benefit of society.
You may do a lot, but if people who are supposed to be stakeholders are not properly educated to know your worth, you don't become relevant. And that is what I think is something that CSR should work very, very hard in addressing. How do the ordinary Ghanaian think about CSIR? How do the ordinary Ghanaian see building and road and research? You have the solutions to the problems.
Meanwhile, Director of the Building and Road Research Institute, Dr. Eugene Atiemo, is touting the achievements of the Institute. According to him, the Institute is positioning itself with projects in aviation, rail and harbour sectors in the next decade.
We'll be using GNSS, GIS, IT applications in road safety, transportation, agri and health, and also provide digital maps, e-applications and e-libraries, among others.
Reporting for JoyNews, Kwesi Deborah.
Let's catch our breath. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to Business Life, and let's do our main story for today. And ahead of the 2018 mid-year budget review and the 2019 budget, Imani Africa has explored some worrying trends that it feels that needs to be addressed going into the next budget. So what is actually their concern? Let's go to the touch screen and see what they've been saying. So Imani is actually saying that in the 2017 budget, they set a ceiling for import exemptions at 934 million cedis, but the outturn actually was 2.6 billion cedis, which means that we actually exceeded our target by 175.5%. That's according to Imani. And when you go further, it's saying that expenditures, on the other hand, we're aligned with revenues, and then expenditures, or most of the items, were also contained, with the exception of compensation of employees, interest on domestic debt, as well as foreign finance capitals. And so they're saying that 75% of all public sector workers, that's a little over 500,000 of them, are classified as semi-skilled and unskilled, yet they are the notorious beneficiaries of the unplanned wage increases. And it further said that financing resources raised by the government in 2017 also went up. So it looks like we're actually not performing well when it comes to the budget. And so Imani is raising these issues, and I've been joined by Philip Namfuri to discuss into details what Imani is raising. So can you please tell me why there's so much concern about public sector wages?
Okay, so Sandra, very good. If you look at the budgets over the years, other fiscal years I mean years where we spend and raise revenue, 2014, 2015, 2016, even in 2017, the 2017 budget, the finance minister alluded to the fact that compensation, interest payments, as well as statutory payments consume a lot of our budgets. And so if you look at Imani's findings, they are raising the argument that, look, we want to raise taxes. That's what they are saying in their findings, that there are some calls for a raising of taxes. But these taxes shouldn't be raised if we take care of other problems in our budgets. And like you read or like you were saying, if you look at the budget, compensation of workers, interest payments, as well as statutory payments, consume a lot. There was one time where the State of the Nation address, the president said they account for about 99% of revenues that we, that we raise and the expenditures we make. So going forward, we have to look for innovative ways to bring down these rigidities in the budget that take a lot of our revenues.
I see. I guess we don't have too much time. I guess we have to wait for the 2018-2019 budget and see what actually the finance minister will be telling. Philip Namfori, thanks so much for joining me. We'll discuss this later, but we'll move on to our interview of the day. And CEO of Harbour Oil and Gas International, a major player in Nigeria's downstream oil and gas sector, Daniel Frejner, says Ghana is relatively a leader in the oil sector, and when it comes to security of the offshore. He was speaking in an interview with Joy Business. Let's listen to this interview.
The availability of products currently as we speak is actually the product we get that is imported. So majorly the products come from Europe, and that's where the implementation is taking place. So I think Nigeria is actually poised to meet that standard. But when it comes to standardized bunkering procedure in Nigeria, I really don't know why we are a bit behind. Probably because of the challenges in the maritime, in terms of safety challenges in the maritime industry in Nigeria. I think most vessel owners, they are not really open to taking bunker in Nigeria, unlike in Ghana, unlike in Lome, and some other places across the West African coast. Price is not really the factor. I think the factor that is working against us over there is security. And that is even the reason why Harbour Oil and Gas is here. We really want to know what Ghana is doing right, that is attracting foreign vessels to Ghana. And at the same time, even though foreign vessels comes to Nigeria to offload their goods, but they are not taking bunker in Nigeria. So we want.
Well, interesting package for Business Live tonight.